New appointments coming across for that congressional super committee on debt and deficit reduction. Mitch McConnell in the Senate now picking Senators John Kyle, Senators Ron Portman, and Pat Toomey for his 3 picks. And then right before that, House Speaker John Boehner choosing House Republican Conference Chairman Jeb Hensarling, Ways and Means Committee Chairman Dave Camp, and Energy and Commerce Committee Chairman Fred Upton. And of course, Harry Reid, his 3 picks on the Democratic side in the Senate, Senators Patty Murray, Max Baucus, and John Kerry. The first of the 12, we got 3 more to go on the House Democrat side. The agreement to cut $1.5 trillion.
That's right, nothing to it. So, Jess, we're waiting for those House Democrats to be named, and as we do so, all right, let's bring in David Hawkings now, Roll Call's daily briefing, to talk a little bit more about it. David, good to see you. And, well, give us your reaction to these new picks. We knew about the senators yesterday on the Democratic side, but now we have some of the Republican senators. First of all, what do you think of that?
Well, I think what's really interesting is, that, as you guys said before the break, the person whose name was not on the list who many people expected to see was Paul Ryan.
Yes.
He presumably was perceived as a little bit too polarizing, but then Mitch McConnell comes out and names Pat Toomey to this panel. Pat Toomey came to the Senate after being the president of the Club for Growth, the ultimate fiscally conservative anti-tax group, so he's a definite hardliner. The 2 Republican names that seem to be the most interesting would be Fred Upton, who has been around for 25 years, really began his congressional career as a leading centrist, got his first job in Washington working for David Stockman before David Stockman became the budget director, and actually worked for Stockman, and Portman, a former White House budget director himself. Those 2 are the 2 big deal cutters on the Republican side.
Expect any deal cutters to come from the Democrats in the House?
No, in a word.
What about Murray, Baucus, and Kerry? Are they deal cutters? Because some people describe them as being fully entrenched on not touching Social Security and Medicare.
Yeah, I think that's a little simplistic myself. I think Patty Murray, she's getting hammered by the Republicans because she's, in addition to her role as a budget leader and an appropriator, she's the head of the Democratic campaign organization. But I would say Baucus is a deal cutter from way back. He was the Democrat who led the Democratic side that went with the Bush tax cuts, and John Kerry wants a legacy before he leaves the Senate.
The thing Alan Simpson said to us 2 days ago when he was on the show was that you had to have some Gang of 6 members, most if not all, if you're going to get a real deal done in his view, and we're not going to get that.
We're not going to get that. I would say now that we've seen 3 out of the 4 corners of this committee filled out, the only suspense is the Democratic side. Nancy Pelosi is not going to put a Gang of 6 type on there.
Well, yeah, but but we're not literally going to get any of the Gang of 6 senators, because now we know all the senators.
Literally not. It seems.
Does that mean that a deal is less likely? Is Simpson right, or you still think they can figure something out here where they come together?
It's difficult to disagree with Alan Simpson. He's almost always right about such political dynamics. I think the only reason to hope for a deal is that the alternative is so much politically worse for these guys. The alternative of the fancy word sequestration, these across-the-board cuts in defense, in social programs, in Medicare hospital payments, would be just worse for them. But these initial 9 names, you don't automatically say, aha.
Camp and Hensarling, we should point out, was on the Simpson-Bowles Commission and voted against it.
That's true, and so did Max Baucus. They all did.
I wanted to, final thought, I wanted to ask you, because over my shoulder you can see the marks down for 459 points, but U.S. Treasuries, an indicator certainly of our maybe credit worthiness, are rallying, and their yield on the 10-year was at a record low. I wonder how that factors into what this committee does, because if they don't get anything done, there are automatic cuts in there. But does this put pressure or ease up pressure off of them somehow?
No, I think it puts the pressure on. I mean, I think the joke in Washington in the last couple of days is the only bipartisan agreement that exists in Washington is disdain for Standard & Poor's. They're really furious about this.
Both sides?
Both sides.
Yeah.
Absolutely both sides think that it was a cheap political shot. Probably annoyance that Standard & Poor's and the other ratings agencies have been written out under the Dodd-Frank bill from some of their powers. There's annoyance about that. That's the sort of simple political view. I do think that it absolutely raises the political stakes for the guys to get a deal. They do not want another hit like this.
All right. David, thanks.
David Hawkins, thank you so much. It was great to see you.
Let's get back to the markets here. Just